The stars had always seemed peaceful to humanity. For centuries, humans looked at the night sky and wondered if someone out there was watching them too. When they finally made contact, it felt like a dream. The Galactic Council welcomed Earth with smiles and promises of unity. It was supposed to be the beginning of a golden age, but the dream did not last long. The Council saw humanity as new and weak, a young species that could be easily guided or controlled. At first, the humans followed their rules, sent ambassadors, and signed treaties. They believed they had found friends among the stars. Yet behind those friendly words, the Council feared Earth's potential. Humans were fast learners, brave explorers, and most of all, unpredictable. It began quietly. Trade routes were restricted. Earthships were delayed or turned away. Small colonies suddenly went silent. When the United Earth Fleet sent ships to investigate, they found ruins. Cities turned to ash and orbiting debris fields glowing with radiation. The Council called it pirate activity. But the humans knew better. One night, deep in the North Atlantic Command Base, Admiral Sarah Connors stood before the holographic map of Earth's colonies. Red lights blinked where millions of lives had once existed. Her hand shook as she whispered, "They're not pirates. They're warnings." Her second-in-command, Captain Rami Kaur, clenched his fists. "They think we'll back down. They think we'll beg." Sarah turned to him, her eyes cold and determined. Then they've forgotten what humanity does when cornered. While Earth mourned, the Council continued its deception. Officially, they spoke of investigations and cooperation, but behind closed doors, they approved sanctions and military patrols around human space. The Council's fleets moved like vultures circling their prey. They believed they could scare Earth into obedience, but they underestimated the human heart. In hidden bases across the solar system, engineers and soldiers worked day and night. Factories on Mars and shipyards on Luna produced ships faster than ever before. They called their new flagship the Resolute, a massive battleship unlike anything humanity had built before. Its hull was forged from experimental alloys, its weapons powered by fusion cores stolen from old Council tech. It was the symbol of Earth's silent rage. Months later, a Council patrol entered the Sol system without permission. They claimed it was a routine inspection. The humans saw it for what it was, a provocation. Admiral Sarah ordered the fleet to hold position and not fire first. But then, without warning, the Council ships opened fire. The first beam hit a communications satellite. The second struck a human frigate, tearing it apart. Screams filled the command channel as debris rained across space. The Galactic Council expected Earth to surrender. Instead, they received a message, short and cold: "You fired first. Now we answer." Within minutes, Earth's fleet activated. The Resolute led the charge, engines burning blue like the fury of a star. Dozens of smaller ships followed, their hulls painted with the insignia of every colony that had been lost. The battle above Mars became a storm of light and death. From the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Sarah watched the Council ships struggle to regroup. Her voice was calm as she gave the order: "Target their command cruiser. End this." The main cannon roared, and in one blinding flash, the Council cruiser disappeared. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council had lost a battle to humans. News spread fast across the stars. Some alien worlds refused to believe it. Others watched in silence, whispering that the humans had awakened something dangerous, something ancient. Back on Earth, people gathered around screens holding their breath as the broadcast replayed the final moment of the battle. When the Council's flagship exploded, the world erupted in cheers and tears. They had been attacked. They had been betrayed, but now, they had struck back. Far across the galaxy, inside the Council's grand chamber, the alien delegates argued in panic. Reports from the front lines showed heavy losses. One voice finally spoke, trembling with fear. "We thought they were just primitives. How did they build a weapon like that?" Another voice replied quietly, "Because we taught them how." As the debate raged, a message arrived from Earth. Simple, direct, and terrifyingly human. "We will not be slaves. We will not kneel. Remember who started this." The Council chamber fell silent. And somewhere deep in the void, humanity prepared for what was coming next. Not a war of survival, but a war of vengeance. The galaxy didn't sleep after that battle. Whispers spread faster than light. Earth had fought back. Entire sectors that once ignored humanity now watched with fear and curiosity. For the first time, the Galactic Council faced an enemy that wasn't begging for peace, but preparing for war. On Earth, the atmosphere had changed. Factories that once made tools now built weapons. Research stations turned into fortresses. Across the colonies, people worked with one shared thought: never again. Admiral Sarah Connors barely slept. The war room deep beneath London was filled with endless data streams, intercepted council messages, movement reports, and requests from frightened diplomats. The council still hadn't declared open war, but their fleets were moving closer every day. They wanted to crush Earth before the humans could rebuild their strength. Sarah stood before the giant screen showing the solar system. "They'll come again," she said quietly. "But this time we won't just defend. We'll strike first." Her second-in-command, Captain Rami Kaur, frowned. "You mean an offensive? That would make us look like the aggressors." "They already think we are," Sarah replied, her voice low but steady. "Now we'll give them a reason." Behind her calm words was a fire that no alien mind could understand. A fire born from loss, from betrayal, from the simple human instinct to protect what's theirs. Far away on Mars, engineers worked in silence on something new, Project Dawnfire. It was humanity's most secret creation, a stealth fleet equipped with gravity-shielding drives that made them invisible to council scanners. These ships weren't built to defend Earth. They were built to reach the heart of the enemy, quietly and without warning. Commander Elias Ward, leader of the Dawnfire team, stood on the deck of the newly finished stealth destroyer Spectre 1. Its surface shimmered like liquid shadow. "She's ready," he said into his comlink. "The fleet can move at your command." "Hold position," Admiral Sarah's voice replied. "We'll move when they least expect it." Meanwhile, the Galactic Council gathered in their high chambers, arguing endlessly. Some called for peace talks. Others demanded total extermination of humanity. Elder Vakta, an ancient species leader, slammed his claws on the marble table. "You've seen what they can do. Their retaliation destroyed a council fleet in minutes. If they strike again, no system will be safe." Another delegate hissed. "Then we must destroy their planet completely." But deep down, even they hesitated. The humans had proven unpredictable. No one knew what else they were hiding. Weeks passed in uneasy silence. The galaxy held its breath. Then one cold night it began. The Spectre fleet moved silently beyond Pluto's orbit, their engines cloaked, their signals erased. They crossed into council space like ghosts. Their target, the Vornak Relay Station, a massive communications hub that connected half of the galaxy's defense network. Inside the dark command deck of Spectre 1, Commander Ward stared at the glowing icon on his screen. "This is it," he whispered. "All ships engage silent attack protocols." One by one, the stealth ships released their payload, swarms of drones armed with EMP charges. The drones moved like fireflies through the void, unseen, unheard. Within minutes, the entire relay station flickered and died. Across the galaxy, council communications went dark. Fleets lost contact with headquarters. Commanders shouted in confusion. Panic spread faster than light. Back on Earth, Admiral Sarah received the coded message. "Operation Dawnfire complete. 0 losses." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then a small smile touched her face. "Good," she whispered. "Now they'll know how it feels to be blind." The council, now cut off from their own systems, tried to restore control. But the chaos was spreading. Pirates attacked undefended routes. Independent planets declared neutrality. Some even sent secret messages to Earth, offering information and supplies in exchange for protection. Humanity had done what no one thought possible. They had silenced an entire galaxy without firing a single visible shot. But Sarah knew it was only the beginning. The council would retaliate soon and harder than before. She turned to Rami and said, "They'll come for us again, but next time we won't be waiting. We'll be already moving." He nodded, understanding. "You mean to take the fight to them?" "Yes," she said. "We've been reacting since this began. It's time we lead." Outside, in the endless dark of space, the Resolute floated in silent orbit above Earth, its hull reflecting the pale blue light of home. Its guns were cold now, but soon they would burn again. And across the stars, the Council's fleets were gathering, unaware that the humans they sought to destroy were already planning their next strike, one that would shake the foundations of the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council had never known fear. For thousands of years, they ruled the stars with laws and fleets strong enough to silence any rebellion. But now everything had changed. An entire communication network had vanished overnight. Fleets were stranded, planets cut off, commanders panicking, and all signs pointed to one source: Earth. Inside the council hall, the air was heavy with dread. Holographic screens flickered around the grand chamber, showing static and broken signals. The delegates of 100 species shouted over each other, their voices filled with anger and fear. "They've crippled half our systems," one alien barked. "This is an act of war," another screamed. "Then declare it," came the reply. "Destroy them before they strike again." At the head of the table sat Elder Vakta, his scaled hands trembling slightly. "Silence," he commanded. The room fell quiet. "We have underestimated the humans. Their technology grows faster than our predictions. Their tactics, unpredictable. We face an enemy who learns from every mistake." A younger delegate leaned forward, voice sharp. "They are one planet, one world against hundreds. Why do we fear them?" Elder Vakta turned his cold eyes toward him. "Because they are not fighting for power. They are fighting for survival, and that makes them dangerous." The chamber grew silent again. Somewhere deep inside, every council member knew he was right. They had seen it before, in history and wars long forgotten. Species that fought for survival never surrendered. Far away, in orbit above the moon, Admiral Sarah Connors watched the stars from the bridge of the Resolute. The massive ship glided silently through the void, her hull gleaming with the faint blue light of Earth. Below her feet, 1,000,000 tons of steel and power waited for her command. "Status report," she said calmly. "All systems green," Rami Kaur replied. "The fleet is ready, Admiral. We're awaiting your signal." Sarah nodded. "Good, but we hold the line until they make the first move. We'll defend one, but we'll be watching." What the Council didn't know was that humanity's eyes were everywhere, small unmanned probes hidden in asteroid fields, listening stations disguised as debris. Every Council movement was being tracked, analyzed, and stored. The humans had learned their lesson. Knowledge was the strongest weapon. Back in Council space, fleets were being rebuilt. Armies were mobilized. Propaganda spread through their networks, calling humans terrorists and savages. But the words didn't erase the truth, that for the first time in centuries the Council had been made to bleed. Elder Vakta stood before his generals. "You will not underestimate them again. Every ship we send must expect a trap. Every fleet must expect to lose." He paused, then added darkly, "And if Earth refuses to surrender, we erase them." The generals bowed and left the chamber. But as Vakta stared at the holographic image of Earth, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The humans had struck twice, once in battle, once in silence. Both times they had won. What would they do next? Weeks later, humanity's spies delivered the answer. On the screen inside the war room, Admiral Sarah watched the intercepted Council message. Plans for a massive invasion fleet gathering near the Delta Prime sector. 100 ships, maybe more, preparing for an assault on the solar system. "They're coming," Rami said quietly. Sarah's voice was calm. "Then we go to them first." She looked around the room. Engineers, tacticians, pilots, each waiting for her order. "They think they can scare us into submission," she continued. "But they've already made their mistake. They taught us their strategies, their technology. And now," she leaned forward, eyes cold, "we'll use it against them." The room fell silent, then erupted in motion. Officers rushed to prepare jump coordinates. Pilots readied their ships. The Resolute's engines began to hum with power. As the human fleet gathered beyond Neptune's orbit, the void itself seemed to grow tense. Every pilot, every soldier knew what this meant. The first true strike into enemy space. There was fear, yes, but also pride. Commander Elias Ward, aboard the stealth destroyer Spectre 1, opened his comlink. "Admiral, the Dawnfire fleet is ready," Sarah's voice replied, steady and resolute. "Then it begins. For every colony we lost, for every life they took, humanity strikes tonight." Outside, stars stretched into long, bright lines as the fleet entered faster than light travel. In that single moment, humanity's destiny changed course forever, from survivors to warriors. At the same time, across the galaxy, Elder Vakta looked up as an aide rushed into his chamber, panic in his eyes. "Sir, reports from Delta Prime. Multiple human signatures appearing near the outer moons." "Wokta Froze. That's impossible." They can't be. Before he could finish, the chamber lights flickered. A deep rumble echoed through the station. Alarms blared. Then came the message. Short, human, and cold as space itself. We warned you. The stars over Delta Prime burned bright, silent witnesses to the storm that was coming. For weeks, the Galactic Council's fleet had gathered here, a show of strength meant to intimidate Earth into surrender. 100 warships hung in orbit above the gas giant, their massive engines glowing like suns. Commanders believed they had time to plan, to prepare, to crush humanity once and for all. They were wrong. Without warning, the darkness around them came alive. Thousands of small flashes appeared across the system, ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Human ships, sleek, dark, and moving in perfect formation. At the center of it all, the massive silhouette of the Resolute loomed like a floating fortress. Inside the Council's command vessel, alarms screamed. Unidentified fleet incoming! Origin unknown, wait, Earth signatures detected. Panic filled the bridge. The Council's admiral, a tall insectoid being named Krylock, slammed his claws on the console. Impossible. How did they find us? No one had an answer. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Sarah Connors stood calm amid the chaos of flashing lights and buzzing reports. Her eyes fixed on the holographic display, red dots for enemy ships, blue for human. The numbers were overwhelming. The enemy outnumbered them 3-1. Admiral, Rami said urgently, their flagship is powering weapons. Should we engage defensive formation? Sarah shook her head. No, not this time. We strike first. Her voice carried across the comms to every ship in the human fleet. This is Admiral Connors. For our colonies, for every soul they burned, for Earth. Fire at will. The silence of space shattered. Human cannons roared to life, streams of plasma and railgun rounds lighting up the void. Council ships scrambled to respond, but their formations broke under the sudden assault. Missiles streaked through the darkness, tearing through cruisers and carriers. The battle had begun. Commander Elias Ward aboard Spectre 1 led the stealth division. Spectre fleet, activate cloaks, he ordered. The stealth ships vanished, their outlines dissolving into the black. Moments later, explosions erupted inside the Council ranks as unseen human ships struck from behind. Multiple hostiles destroyed, Ward reported. Rami grinned. Looks like the ghosts are doing their job. But victory didn't come easy. From the Council's flagship, a deep blue energy wave surged outward, cutting through several human ships. Entire squadrons vanished in fire. The bridge of the Resolute shook violently. Shield integrity down to 60%, an officer shouted. Sarah gripped the railing. Hold the line. Focus all fire on that command ship. Every human vessel turned its guns toward the flagship. A rain of light filled space. Rail slugs, missiles, and plasma bolts all converging on one target. The Council ship's shields flared, then cracked, and then it exploded. The shockwave rippled across the fleet. Human pilots cheered, their voices filling the comms. But Sarah didn't smile. Don't celebrate yet, she said quietly. They're not finished. Across the battlefield, smaller Council ships regrouped. Dozens of destroyers formed tight formations, firing in synchronized volleys. Human frigates were hit one by one. Spectre 2 vanished in a flash of light. Ward's voice broke through the static. We're losing ships fast, requesting reinforcements. Negative, Sarah replied. Stay cloaked and hit their flanks. We can't afford to lose you. Her eyes scanned the tactical map. The human fleet was pushing forward but taking heavy losses. The Council still had the advantage in numbers and reinforcements were on the way. Time was running out. Then an idea sparked in her mind. Rami, she said, remember the gas storms of Delta Prime? He blinked. You mean the magnetic fields? They'll tear our ships apart. Not if we use them right, she replied, a thin smile forming. Get the fleet to fall back into the upper atmosphere now. Rami hesitated, but one look at her face told him she wasn't guessing. He relayed the command. To the Council, it looked like retreat. Human ships pulled back, engines flaring, disappearing into the glowing clouds of the gas giant. Krylock hissed in satisfaction. Fools, they're running. He raised his claws. Pursue them. The Council fleet followed. As their ships entered the storm, magnetic energy danced across their hulls. Sensors glitched. Targeting systems failed. Pilots shouted in confusion, and then, from within the storm, the Resolute emerged. Her cannons glowed white-hot, lightning crackling across her hull. She fired once, twice, 3 times. Each shot struck perfectly, guided by the magnetic field Sarah had calculated earlier. The enemy ships, blind and disoriented, never stood a chance. The storm itself seemed to fight for humanity. Council cruisers collided. Frigates spun out of control. One by one, their lights faded into the swirling clouds. When the firing stopped, silence filled the comms. Smoke drifted across the shattered battlefield. Wreckage of alien ships floated like dead stars around the gas giant. Rami exhaled slowly. It's over. Admiral, they're retreating. Sarah stared at the wreckage for a long time. No, she said softly. This was only a part of their fleet. The Council won't stop until we're erased. This victory will only make them angrier. But deep in her heart, she knew something had changed. For the first time, humanity had taken the war to the enemy, and won. Far away in the capital world of the Galactic Council, Elder Vakta watched the battle footage in silence. The human ships moved like hunters, precise and relentless. The Council's mighty fleet gone, he whispered to himself. They are not just fighting. They are evolving. And for the first time in his long life, Elder Vakta felt something alien to him. Fear. The Battle of Delta Prime was over. The human fleet drifted among the wreckage, silent and scarred. What had once been a storm of fire was now a graveyard of metal and smoke. Thousands of lives, human and alien, were gone. For a moment, space itself felt heavy. Admiral Sarah Connors stood on the bridge of the Resolute, looking out at the burning fragments of the Council fleet. The reflection of the destruction flickered across her eyes. Around her, the crew worked quietly. There were no cheers this time. Only exhaustion and grief. Damage report, she said softly. 70% of our ships are operational, Rami replied. His voice was rough from sleepless hours. We lost over 2,000 people, Admiral. The Spectre Division lost half its fleet. Sarah closed her eyes. Understood. Begin rescue operations. Retrieve every survivor, ours or theirs. Rami looked at her, confused. Even theirs? She turned to him, her expression calm but firm. We are not like them. Remember that. Hours passed as rescue shuttles moved between debris fields. Among the twisted metal and shattered hulls, human crews found something unexpected. Alien survivors. Wounded soldiers from the Council's fleet, drifting in escape pods or clinging to damaged ships. When word reached the Council, it spread like wildfire. Humans were rescuing their enemies. In the Council's chambers, Elder Vakta slammed his hand on the table. They dare to mock us with mercy, he shouted. But deep inside, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, the humans were not the monsters he feared. Still, he could not show weakness. Prepare the retaliation fleet, he ordered. If they want peace, they'll have to kneel for it. Back aboard the Resolute, the medbays were full. Doctors and engineers worked side by side, treating humans and aliens alike. The air smelled of smoke and metal, but the sound of quiet determination filled every corner. In one of the recovery rooms, Commander Elias Ward sat beside a wounded alien officer, one of the survivors they had pulled from an escape pod. The creature had silver skin and deep blue eyes filled with confusion. Why save me? The alien whispered weakly. Your kind should have left me to die. Ward looked at him for a long moment, then said simply, Because we don't fight to kill. We fight to live. The alien said nothing, but a tear shimmered in his eye. For the first time, he saw what the Council had never understood, the power of human compassion. Meanwhile, in the war room, Sarah reviewed the long list of casualties. Each name was a reminder of the cost of victory. She placed her hand on the screen, whispering, You didn't die for nothing. Rami entered quietly. We've finished collecting survivors. The fleet's ready to return to Earth. Sarah didn't look up. They'll hit back soon, won't they? Yes, Rami said grimly. Scouts report heavy ship movement near Council space. They're building something. Big, Sarah sighed. Then we need time. Time to rebuild. Time to prepare. Days later, the human fleet returned home. When the Resolute entered Earth's orbit, the planet below lit up with welcome beacons. Billions watched from cities and colonies as their heroes returned from the impossible. The news spread across every screen. Earth victorious at Delta Prime. But behind the celebrations, Sarah saw the truth. This victory had painted a target on their world. At the United Earth Command in Geneva, leaders and scientists gathered in an emergency meeting. The room was filled with noise, plans, arguments, fear. Some wanted peace. Others wanted total war. Sarah stood silently at the edge of the table until the voices faded. Then she spoke, her tone steady. The Council won't forgive us. They'll come with everything they have. We need alliances, now. Who would ally with us? One diplomat asked bitterly. The whole galaxy fears the Council. Then we find those who fear them more, Sarah replied. Her words hung in the air. Everyone knew what she meant. The oppressed worlds, the enslaved species, the forgotten colonies that had suffered under Council rule. If Earth could unite them, humanity might stand a chance. Far away, deep in Council space, Elder Vakta watched a hologram of the battle replaying in silence. Human ships darted through the void like living fire, brave, furious, unstoppable. They are unlike any race we've met, murmured one of his aides. Yes, Vakta said quietly. And that is what makes them dangerous. He stared at the final image, the explosion of his fleet, the message left behind by the humans. We will not kneel. For the first time, Vakta felt something beyond fear and respect. But he knew respect wouldn't save his empire. Prepare the retaliation fleet, he said softly. This time, we end it. Back on the Resolute, night had fallen over Earth. Sarah stood by the observation window, watching the blue planet below. Rami approached, holding a datapad. Admiral, he said, intelligence confirmed something. The Council's mobilizing a superweapon, something massive hidden in the Orion Belt. Sarah didn't move. Her eyes stayed on Earth. Then that's where we'll go next, she whispered. Before they finish it, Rami frowned. You mean to attack it? Yes, she said. We strike first, one last time. Outside, the stars shimmered quietly, unaware of the storm about to begin again. The humans had won a victory, but it had come with a price. And somewhere beyond the stars, the Council's vengeance was already on its way. The void between stars was never truly silent. Hidden signals, whispers of movement, and secret transmissions filled the blackness. And somewhere in that darkness, the Council was preparing its vengeance. For months, humanity had been rebuilding, watching, waiting. The scars of Delta Prime still ran deep, but the people of Earth had found strength in their pain. Every factory hummed with life, every scientist worked without rest. The war wasn't over, and everyone knew it. The calm was only the pause before the next storm. Inside the Resolute's command room, Admiral Sarah Connors stood with her officers as a holographic image rotated slowly before them. A massive structure, miles wide, hidden deep inside the Orion Belt. Rami Kaur leaned forward. So it's real. The Council's weapon. Yes, Sarah replied, her voice quiet but sharp. Codename Project Eclipse. According to intercepted data, it's not just a weapon, it's a planet killer. The room went silent. Even the hum of the ship's engines seemed to fade. Commander Elias Ward folded his arms. If they finish it, Earth won't stand a chance. Sarah looked around the table, her eyes calm but burning with resolve. Then we destroy it before it's ready. For days, the human fleet prepared in secret. Only a handful of officers knew the full plan. Operation Shadow Spear, a mission to infiltrate the Orion Belt, locate Project Eclipse, and destroy it before the Council could launch it. But not everyone agreed. At United Earth Command, politicians argued endlessly. We should negotiate, shouted one. If we attack again, the entire galaxy will unite against us. They already have, Sarah replied coldly. You just don't see it yet. The Council room fell silent. Her reputation after Delta Prime left little room for argument. She was a soldier, not a diplomat, and she understood one truth better than anyone. Mercy means nothing to those who crave domination. When the human fleet finally departed, they did so without fanfare. No speeches, no songs, only the quiet understanding that many of them would never return. The ships vanished into the darkness, their engines leaving faint blue trails that faded among the stars. As they approached the Orion Belt, static filled the comms. The region was dangerous. thick with dust clouds, magnetic storms, and ancient debris. Perfect cover for the Council's secret base. Scanning now, Rami reported. I'm picking up power readings and strong ones on coming from those coordinates. Sarah stared at the readings. That's it. Project Eclipse. Elias's voice came over comms from the stealth destroyer Spectre 1. We'll take point, Admiral. We'll find a way through. Be careful, she warned. If this is their main facility, they'll have traps. He chuckled softly. Wouldn't be the first time. The Spectre fleet moved forward, disappearing into the thick asteroid field. Their stealth drives hummed quietly, masking their energy signatures. The massive shadow of the Orion Belt loomed over them like a sleeping giant. Minutes passed. Then, a whisper of static. Admiral, Elias's voice came through, faint and broken. We found it. Eclipse Station. But the signal cut off. Sarah's heart froze. Ward, respond. Elias, do you copy? Nothing. Only silence. Rami's hands flew across the controls. Jamming field, Admiral. They've blocked all communications inside the belt. Before Sarah could reply, a blinding flash erupted from the darkness. A human destroyer, one of the stealth ships, burst into flames, torn apart by an unseen explosion. Ambush, shouted an officer. They knew we were coming. Dozens of Council ships emerged from behind asteroids, their cannons firing in unison. The trap had been set perfectly. Project Eclipse had never been unfinished. It had been bait. The bridge of the Resolute shook violently as enemy fire struck its shields. Sparks flew, alarm screamed. Evasive maneuvers, Sarah ordered. Return fire in full power. Human ships turned and fired, lighting up the belt with waves of plasma. Asteroids shattered under the crossfire. The entire region became a storm of light and dust. Through the chaos, Rami shouted, Admiral, we can't win here. They outnumber us 4-1. Sarah's eyes were cold. Then we hit their heart. She pointed toward the massive structure in the distance, Project Eclipse. It floated like a black moon, its surface glowing with energy lines. A weapon designed to burn worlds. Focus all power on that station, she said. If we die, ending this. The Resolute pushed forward, engines roaring. Smaller ships followed, covering her flanks. The station's defenses lit up, spewing beams of blue energy that cut through human vessels one by one. But the Resolute kept going. Inside the control chamber of Eclipse Station, alien commanders shouted orders. Concentrate fire on the flagship. Do not let them close. A young technician looked up from his console. Sir, they're not slowing down. On the screen, the Resolute burned through the void like a comet. Wounded but unstoppable. Shields at 20%, Rami shouted. Keep them up as long as you can, Sarah yelled back. Arm all torpedoes. The massive ship trembled under the impact of enemy fire. Flames licked across its hull, but when they reached striking distance, Sarah gave the final order. Fire! Dozens of torpedoes launched, streaking toward the station like falling stars. They hit dead center. The explosion was so bright it blinded every sensor in the system. The shockwave tore through the belt, scattering ships and debris for thousands of kilometers. When the light faded, Project Eclipse was gone, reduced to glowing fragments drifting through the void. Cheers filled the comms. Survivors cried out in relief, but Sarah didn't join them. Her gaze stayed fixed on the wreckage. Rami turned to her, smiling weakly. We did it, Admiral. It's over. She shook her head slowly. No, something's wrong, and then the screens flickered. A faint transmission came through the static. Elias Ward's voice weak but clear. Admiral. It wasn't the real weapon. It was a decoy. Sarah's breath caught. What? The real Eclipse? His voice crackled, fading. It is already active. Heading for Earth. The signal died. Silence filled the bridge. Sarah stared into the darkness, her heart pounding. Set a course for Earth, she said quietly. Maximum speed. And as the Resolute turned toward home, she whispered to herself, they knew exactly how to hurt us. The journey back to Earth was silent. No one spoke much aboard the Resolute. Every crew member knew what Elias's last words meant. Project Eclipse wasn't destroyed. The Galactic Council's true weapon was on its way to humanity's homeworld. The stars ahead seemed colder than ever. Each passing second felt heavier. Earth, blue, fragile, and alive, was now the target of extinction. Admiral Sarah Connors stood before the viewport, her reflection pale against the endless black. The ship's engines rumbled beneath her feet, pushing faster than they ever had. She whispered softly, "Hold on, home. We're coming." In orbit around Earth, the defense network was alive with movement. Thousands of satellites, defense platforms, and ships stood ready. Civilians were evacuated into underground shelters. The world's government spoke in a single voice for the first time in history. From the United Earth Command Center, voices filled the air. Tracking unknown object entering solar system. It's moving fast, too fast. Size approximately 200 kilometers across. God help us. The feed zoomed in. A dark shape slid through the void. Massive, mechanical, pulsing with red energy. Project Eclipse. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a floating fortress, a mobile world destroyer, and it was heading straight for Earth. When the Resolute dropped out of warp, the crew saw it with their own eyes. The monstrous station hanging over the sunlit side of Earth like a death shadow. Its weapon core glowed brighter with every second. The countdown had begun. Sarah turned toward her crew. "This is it. We can't run. We can't hide. This is where humanity stands." Rami nodded, tears glinting in her eyes. "Then let's make them remember who we are." Elias's seat on the bridge remained empty, a quiet reminder of sacrifice. Sarah's gaze lingered there for a moment before she spoke again. "All ships form up. Prioritize defense of the planet. Target the weapon core. If we fall protecting home." The message spread across the fleet. From the smallest drone fighter to the largest dreadnought, humanity answered as one. For Earth, the battle began. Beams of blue and red tore across the darkness. Dozens of human ships were destroyed in the first volley, but still they fought. Earth's orbital guns fired relentlessly, carving pieces off the enemy's outer armor. The sound of battle filled every channel, cries of courage, pain, and defiance. Inside the Resolute, the deck shook violently. Shield failure in sectors 5 through 9. Main engines hit. Plasma battery 3 offline. Sarah gripped the railing, shouting over the alarms. Divert all power to the forward guns. Keep firing! The great ship groaned under the strain, but obeyed. Plasma bursts lit the void, slamming into the Eclipse's weapon core. A section of the enemy hull exploded outward, but the glow only grew stronger. Rami shouted, "Admiral!" The weapon's charging faster now, it's almost ready to fire. Sarah's voice was calm, almost steady. "Then we stop it now, even if it costs us everything." As the battle raged, a faint voice echoed over the comms. "Admiral Connors." "It's Elias," Sarah froze. "Ward, you're alive?" "Barely," he coughed. "I'm aboard one of the enemy frigates. I can see their core. It's unstable, but if I overload their cooling system, it'll trigger a chain reaction. That'll destroy the entire station," she said quietly. "I know," he replied, "but it's the only way." There was a pause, a silence filled with 1,000 unspoken words. "Elias," Sarah said softly. "Tell them," he interrupted, voice weak but proud. "Tell them humanity didn't just fight, we endured." Then the signal cut out. On the Eclipse, deep inside its metallic heart, Elias dragged himself toward a glowing console. Flames flickered around him. Sparks rained from the ceiling. His hand trembled, but he pressed the final command. A warning blared through the alien ship. Core meltdown imminent. From the bridge of the Resolute, Sarah watched as the enemy station began to glow from within. First bright red, then white, then blinding. She whispered, "Goodbye, old friend." Moments later, Project Eclipse erupted in a light brighter than the sun. The explosion expanded outward, consuming the station, the Council's fleet, and everything around it. The shockwave hit the Resolute, throwing it violently through space. When the light faded, only silence remained. Hours later, as emergency crews moved through the battered ship, Sarah looked out the viewport once more. Below her, Earth shone quietly, scarred but alive. The blue ocean still glimmered. The clouds still drifted across the continents. Humanity had survived. Rami joined her, voice soft. "It's over," Sarah nodded slowly. "For now, but they'll come again one day." When they do, she looked at the faint wreckage of the Eclipse drifting like ashes among the stars. They'll remember what happened here. Across the galaxy, the surviving members of the Galactic Council gathered in fear. Entire species had watched the transmission of Earth's defense. The images of human ships burning but never surrendering spread across every world. An elder alien, voice trembling, said, "If this is what humans do when cornered, then perhaps the galaxy belongs to them after all." Silence filled the chamber. No one disagreed. Back on Earth, people stepped out of the shelters for the first time. The skies were quiet. The sun rose slowly, painting the ruins in gold light. Children laughed. Families embraced. Soldiers wept. And far above, in orbit, the Resolute drifted peacefully, its hull damaged, but still shining in the dawn. Admiral Sarah Connors stood alone on the bridge, whispering to herself, "We are humanity, and we are not afraid of the dark."